the Elite Investor Podcast. So I'm happy to have my guy Javier here. He's a beast when it comes to the trucking business. He's a beast when it comes to serial entrepreneurship. And yeah, I'm just happy to have you here and be able to kind of chop it up with you and give our audience something to sink their teeth into, man. So tell us about yourself a little bit about your background, where you from, and how'd you get into the business and investing in businesses.
Yeah. Well, Ace, first thing, appreciate you having me here. Honestly, I'm excited. I'm excited to share my story, and hopefully, my story can align with some of the people out there on where they're going, and that pretty much anything is possible as long as you're focused and determined to make something happen within your life. So,
100%.
appreciate it.
Of course, of course.
But yeah, let me essentially how I started. I was working in corporate America. First things first, you're trying to make a little bit more money. You get a job and you want to move up the corporate ladder. I invested almost a decade into that world, realizing that another decade was not going to put me closer to the dream that I had. And that dream that I had when I was 17, 16 was I want to be a millionaire.
Right.
I want to be rich. And you're moving up through a corporate ladder and you think that's it, but when you finally realize you're only making $200,000 max, 300,000.
You felt like it was a ceiling on you, a limit.
I'll never own a Lamborghini in that case. So,
100%.
so with that being said, I made a decision. Entrepreneurship is the route that I always wanted to go, but I was scared. I didn't know what avenue was going to make me money. I tried small little businesses like flipping vapes, and that didn't go nowhere.
Right.
So I ultimately moved to Arizona, and I met an employee of mine that owned a truck.
Right.
And I'm like two levels above you in the corporate world, and how do you own a business? So I was all ears. I asked the young guy, I was like, hey man, talk to me about the business. So he gave me all the game, right? And I was like, man, you know what? I'm very interested. You know, and I would drive every day to his store just to go talk to him. And COVID hit, right? COVID hit, and all the stores are shutting down. I'm realizing, well, what skills do I have? And the skills that I had was sales. During COVID, I mean, who are you selling to? You can't get in front of anybody.
Right.
So I was going to become a truck driver. I happened to purchase a townhouse a year and a half ago, 2 years before that. Came up on some equity, sold a townhouse in Vegas, came up with like 60,000, and I used those funds with my brother, half and half, and we bought our first semi truck. I was actually going to be the driver of that semi.
Wow.
And COVID, they start opening stores. The restrictions were kind of more lenient, so I never ended up losing my job. Now I own a truck, and I have no driver, right? Because I'm supposed to be the driver.
Right.
At that point, I told my brother, I was like, hey, I think we're going to hire a driver. Post a little ad on Craigslist, found a driver, put the truck to work, and, a couple of years later, here we are with 34 semi-trucks.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's crazy. So that growth was amazing. You already kind of had that entrepreneur bug, that investor bug, it seemed like. So you seen the opportunity, and you got a mentor. Like, we like to talk a little bit about mentors and people that kind of helped us on the way, because that's what it's all about, is kind of finding those people and becoming a part of those circles where you can elevate, or people can give you information that you never thought you would get or receive, and access to places that you never thought you would be able to enter. So what kind of drove you through that door? Because I know you still had your corporate job. What was that spark that light that was like, yeah, we already got the truck, let's make this happen?
I'll tell you a little story that actually happened to me. So when I started the company, I didn't leave the corporate world.
Okay.
I kept working because I was making, six figures at the time.
So you kept your job and you had your business on the side. So.
I kept the job, had the business on the side. The more you work through the corporate world, you learn that you don't really have to work 8 hours a day.
Right.
There's time where you can work and there's time where you can act dumb.
Okay.
A lot of people will go take an extra break and do nothing with it. Well, I'm taking breaks and I'm working my business. Right. So there was a point in time where I moved back to Vegas, still had the corporate job 2 years later, and I'm fighting myself in my head. What do I want to do? Do I accelerate the business right before I got to 34 trucks? Do I accelerate the business, or do I keep the corporate world? At what point do I leave the 9 to 5 and focus on my business? And it wasn't until I went to, there's a restaurant, Lazy Dogs on Town Square.
Hmm.
I went there middle of lunch and I'm at the bar, just having lunch. And I'm literally in my head trying to figure this answer. There's this gentleman sitting next to me, older gentleman, and he just happens to make conversation.
Mm.
And, I asked him, like, hey, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I was like, okay, well, what kind of line of work? He's like, well, uh, he does like investment slash he creates things,
Hmm.
right? Like, and inventor. He's an inventor. He has like patents.
Wow.
And I asked him, like, hey, can I ask you a question? At what point do you leave your 9 to 5 to really focus on your business? And the response that he said, can I be honest with you? Like very like straightforward. I was like, please. He's like, your generation is weak. Like you guys are so scared of everything,
Yeah.
right? The answer to your question is if you're asking that question, you're not ready.
Right.
If you're ready, then you're ready. Now, look at your expenses. How much money do you have? Do you have 3 months, 6 months? And as long as you have that number, then just go do it.
Right.
Unless you think your business is going to fail, then don't do it. He said that and it just stuck with me, right? It just stuck with me. And 3 months later, I took a leave from work and I never went back,
Wow.
right? So I made that decision.
Took a leap of faith for
And
sure.
what I realized though is you're betting on yourself. So as soon as you make that decision of, no one goes in business saying, I'm going to try this and I'm going to fail. Like, yes, you're going to fail, right? That's part of the learning experience
Right.
of building. You can go one avenue, and by the time you finish, you'll be in a whole different avenue,
Yeah.
right? And one thing I realized is, and look, you got to be confident amongst yourself. You got to believe in yourself. No one
Right.
else needs to believe in you but you.
Right.
And people can think that you're just crazy, like this guy lives in the clouds. But at the end of the day, what entrepreneur doesn't have high dreams?
So you got to kind of be a little bit crazy to
You
do this.
you got to
To be
be.
an investor, entrepreneur, in anything where you all relying on yourself. You're on an island
Yeah.
at the end of the day, and it's up for you to be able to survive. It's up for you to be able to provide and build something that only you can envision. Like you can only see the vision. The people around you aren't sitting up at night. They're not doing the due diligence when it comes to the studying. So even the advice that they give you is not 100% accurate
Yeah.
versus like the where you're already immersed in the idea that you can create this thing, and it's kind of hard for other people to see it, and it's you really are betting on yourself, like you said. That was huge. Like you really got to take a risk on yourself, and what better bet is there to make when you
Yeah.
got full control over how hard you go, how much you work, and how successful and the person that stands the longest is the one that's going to be successful. The people that fall off when things get hard are usually the ones that have those failure stories. So
Yeah.
that's crazy that you kind of went through that thought process, and you breaking the myth of leaving, just jumping ship and leaving your job.
Yeah.
Because like most people will just jump ship, or they'll stay on their job.
Yeah.
But you made it happen between both, and make that transition. That's huge.
And one of the biggest skill sets that I tell you that you need as an entrepreneur is being fluid,
Right.
right? You got to be able to understand that sometimes you're making the wrong decision
Hmm.
and you fail. And, I learned this from a mentor in the corporate world. He said, when you try something, fail fast. Doesn't mean fail intentionally. It
Right.
means that, you know, you could only survive failing so much. And they say that if you do the exact same thing, hoping a different result, that's the definition of insanity,
Right.
right? Well, yes, you have to be crazy, but you also have to be somewhat smart, right? Where this, like sticking a fork into the toaster.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
Yeah.
many times are you gonna do it before you stop doing it?
Right, man. Come on.
So fail fast is definitely one of the things. Be fluid. Try multiple different things, and you'll eventually make it work. And I
Right.
know one of the scariest things for me, and I'll just kind of like jump into this is first customer we had. I was doing a lot of work with them, and they shut down my account, so I
Mm.
no longer could work with them. And I was literally like shitting bricks. I'm like, man, I lost my customer. And then what I ended up doing was I called the customer, explained all the situation. 7 days later, we're back on, right? It taught me that it's not black and white. There's always gray. And in a job, there's also gray,
Right.
right? You show up 5 minutes late, there's a grace period, right? In business, there are grace periods. You make your own grace periods.
Hmm.
All you got to do is be able to communicate and talk and explain yourself, and that's just part of the steps of owning a business. Is you're going to talk to a lot of people, and you have to be able to do that. If not, you won't get nowhere.
Right.
Because no one's going to feed you success or hand you success.
And if you don't ask, you won't receive for sure.
Facts.
Communication is key in business. I feel you on that for sure. So what were some of the biggest obstacles that you faced going into business? Was anything that was like you thought it was going to be over for you and you kind of persevered through it, or what was something that you faced that was kind of difficult?
Like I'll tell you, this happened to me probably about. Everyone wants to say the winning parts of
Yeah,
business,
exactly.
right? It happened to me I want to say about 7 months ago, right? Our company's doing $12 million in revenue, and so I feel like I'm untouchable. I'm on top of the world. I'm trying to scale to 100 trucks.
Wow.
We had a safety concern within trucking. There's like a score that goes into the FMCSA, right?
Right.
And our score got pretty bad. We were trying to fix it, but it was just too far out of control. We lost our number one broker. Now I've lost a customer like years ago, and I thought it was a big deal. This
Right.
time we built the company around this specific customer,
Mm.
and someone had told me that's not a good idea,
Eggs in one
right?
basket.
Eggs in one basket. And I'm like, nah, we're good. Like, I'm
Yeah.
good. I ended up learning that, you could be one entity, you could be doing good. It's a matter of time for you to collapse if you
Right.
don't have a strong infrastructure. And sometimes they say you're running, you're building an infrastructure, but as you're building an infrastructure, you might not be ready for that next level
Right.
because it's not strong enough.
Right.
So what I ended up learning was partner up with other owners of
Mm.
companies.
This is huge. All right.
That's the biggest one that
Yeah.
I learned because at that point, you're like a bunch of smaller infrastructures
Hmm.
that can all share their network of systems, processes, a lot of these different things that corporations need to create without you having to spend a lot of money to get these items.
Right.
And so I started doing that. Like my company shifted from just being a trucking company,
Hmm.
right? To now we're shifting into a holding company. Now I'm bypassing all the rental companies in the country where I literally will be renting the trucks from a holding company that I manage
Hmm.
to multiple different DOTs that I'm involved with. And essentially it's going to allow us to not like not need one company to let us go because we have so much other companies that I'm working with
Right.
through this
Leverage.
holding company,
Yeah.
and it's all these different owners, right? And that's actually one of the things that I'm working on right now is as a business consultant is working with trucking industry owners on how they can scale,
Mm.
how they can partner up with us, how we can, one of the things is everyone's trying to get a dollar from you.
Yeah.
Well, when you have a guy that's a pretty big name in the industry that does high revenue and you affiliate with them, you get the benefits of what this company is getting. And that's something that we're pushing out right now is because the economy is where the economy is right now,
Right.
right? We don't know where it's going. And all we're trying to do is hope to survive and make it to the next year, right? In a sense. Well, if you're alone, you might just get swept underneath the rug,
Right.
right? If you're partnered up with a lot of people, I mean, you're stronger as a group.
That's huge. Yeah. I mean, even going into that, like the economy, do you feel like it dictates how a business does? I mean, there's a lot of businesses that go out. Do you feel like there's any strategy that you can use to prevent going out of business or kind of feeling that pain or are you guys in that risk mitigation type of um, mindset right now when it comes to the market?
Yeah, no, well, I think the biggest thing in any business is just make sure you bring more money than you're spitting out,
Right,
right?
100%.
That's number one rule in business. And yeah, I think any business is affected by what's going on in
Yeah.
the world because you don't know. That's the thing. I've talked to a lot of equity firms and all their comment is honestly, we don't know. There's people buying, there's people not necessarily scaling, but they're decreasing their overhead
Right,
and
right.
just trying to create like a cash bag in a sense where If an opportunity presents, they're
Or
buying
they
it.
got you gotta have those reserves.
You got to have the and you know one
Yeah.
other thing that I realized is it's the best time when you talk about partnerships.
Hmm.
It's the best time where people think owning your own company is the goal,
Go for it. Talk
right?
that. Yeah. Talking
Uh,
about partnership. I
I
like
w-
it.
I will tell you this: I would rather own a bunch of different companies that pay me out. And look, I'll say this, right? My number that I always said, and I've asked a lot of people, is how much money do you want to make a month where you're happy? Now,
Yeah.
the number is infinity,
Right.
but at the same
Always.
time, at the
Yeah.
same time,
Yeah. Three Lambos.
hey, Lambo, Ferrari,
Yeah.
for
All of
different
them.
colors.
Bugattis, everything.
But I would say, think about it. If you look in this current market, a nice house, we're talking about by McDonald's Ranch, it's
Mm.
probably somewhere around $15,000 a month, right? You're gonna have to have a nice car, and I mean, I want a Lambo,
Yeah, you do.
right? And
Yeah.
so that's about 5,000 a month. Off of those two things, that doesn't include food, bills, kids, school, nothing, right? So throw a number of 50,000. Well, if one company is generating 50,000 for you to take home, and that disappears the next month, you're screwed,
Right.
right? And I think that's what happened in 2008 when people were over leveraged,
Hmm.
right? And that's the biggest lesson. It doesn't matter if you're 9 to 5 or you're in the business world. If you over leverage and that thing is pulled from underneath you, you're done
Yeah.
in a sense, right?
Yep.
You can obviously, yes, you could come back up from it and rebuild yourself and take all the lessons you learned. But how about you don't experience some of those lessons because you're learning from other people, right?
Right.
So for me, what I say is owning a piece of multiple different companies, right? And working together to build them because you build faster as a team
Right.
than you do as yourself. Because as yourself, you're thinking in your head, trying to think what is the best decision to make. When you have equal-minded people in different industries that can somehow become verticals, you're sharing different perspectives, and there's just no way to fail.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I don't think there's a way to fail. I mean, think about it.
It's like diversifying your portfolio. It's like if you put all your money in one stock and you betting on this one stock to make it, then chances is if that stock goes, you're going. But if you diversify your portfolio, like us with our company Elite, we're a private equity company as well. So we diversify into assets, and we don't have to bet on the market. We spread our seed over businesses and real estate, and when the one market goes down and the other market goes up, we still be able to kind of balance our balance sheet. So it just it's that's huge in partnerships, like you were saying. Like I feel if you have, I never want to be the smartest person in the room anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
I like to have smart people around me.
Yeah,
I like to
yeah.
be connected with smart people operating the business. I'm an I started off as an operator, and like what you were saying kind of hit home as like over leveraging. When I was operating, I was full in over leverage, and everything in our business did take a tank. I was able to build it back up just based off of just like full grit. But
Yeah.
I didn't even have to go through that if I didn't over leverage. And if I had partners that I could, what I mean, lean, or if I was vertically integrated, which means like you have different sectors that actually help you build up versus relying on one thing. So that's huge that you say that. Do you have any type of outside that kind of feed into what you're doing right now? Like any branches that kind of just help your core business?
Yeah. So I learned about verticals, right? And people talk about you have your business and you're thinking about starting your second business.
Hmm.
Well, how do you know what second business to start? And they always say, well, look at what you're using in your current business, either your number one customer, your number one provider, partner, whatever it is. Just look at who's helping you, how much are they charging you, and can you do the exact same thing for a fraction of the price?
Right.
And I learned that, and I started a company in Belize that's a BPO company that provides all the dispatching for my trucking company. Now, the way that I was able to build this was I went on a TV show called The Blocks. It was a very competitive entrepreneur TV show with my brother. I met these two gals who are now my business partners in that company. So we all like gravitated. We won most valuable companies, and we said, hey, we should start a business together, just via text. Like one lives in Colorado, one in Florida, and I'm in Vegas. And I said, well, what is the company? And we were throwing all these ideas. And I said, what about a VA service,
Mm,
right? And I'm
big right
thinking,
now.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking dispatch
Right.
VA for my company. I was able to scale my staff support while saving the company money, being able to travel to another country, right? Which is actually beautiful. Like you're technically mini vacation while working.
Right, right.
And
That's a dream.
it's a dream.
Yeah,
We were able to get a penthouse, our office, and we started helping other companies that are in that position as well, where they're trying to scale, but they just necessarily can't.
yeah. They
And the
don't have
most
the manpower for it.
they don't have the manpower, and at the same time is how do you trust those companies
Right,
because you don't know what you're getting overseas.
exactly.
And for us being US based, we all have our own US based companies. We all see the value in the BPO VA service. And we're like, if we would have known this sooner, we would have started a lot sooner. And so that's a vertical that we started where we're now we created a whole sales department in there. So we're doing outbound calls. But I did that as a vertical from my company to benefit selfishly my own company. And now it's benefiting a lot of other companies
Right,
and it's allowing them to scale because you got to keep in mind the people that would live overseas are really bright people and all they need is an opportunity.
right.
Well, we're bringing those opportunities to them as well as an opportunity for US based companies to be able to right
Yeah,
scale. And all the people need over there are entry level jobs, which means as a company scales and becomes more high revenue and bigger, they're going to need US based mid management staff,
hmm,
executive teams. Well, you can't afford those type of experienced individuals without having more income.
right.
And so it's like those are the verticals that we did, and I think it's helping a lot of companies out,
I
including
think
myself.
that's huge. Yeah, definitely. And you taking your company global, as well as being able to kind of leverage. And I'm big on leverage, like being able to use those branches to as a web to bring it all back home. And I know you're creating a lot of jobs for people too. So how is that? Like how's the managing the staff and managing the truckers and what do you use do you use AI or any type of communication for that to make that run smooth?
So we are dabbing into AI. AI is huge, as we know. And
Right.
to be honest, I feel like that grandpa sometimes where
Yeah.
I don't understand all of AI.
Right.
So, but we're learning. You got to learn. They say the day you stop learning is when you get left behind.
Right.
So you always have to innovate your company. So one of the things, and this is very basic, is utilizing AI to allow people to like. I'll tell you this: my grammar is not the greatest. If I'm typing fast, I'll be
Yeah, you
misspelling.
just
So I
throwing
use,
it out there.
hey, I'm throwing it out there. So I'll use ChatGPT to, hey, rewrite this, and then
Okay.
I'll just forward that, right?
Yeah.
So we're using things like that. We are working on trying to get voice AI to get involved with us, where
Okay.
they can answer calls. And to be honest with you, I've seen how AI works, and like I said, I don't understand it, but it amazes me. So I know that that's an opportunity for everyone out there. Um, but I mean, sorry, I kind of lost my my where I was heading.
No, you good. No, you was just talking about kind of utilizing AI and communication. And then like the three things that I see that you spoke about kind of that really like will help a viewer is communication, partnerships, leveraging, and then building a vertical. What for a person that's just getting started in the game, that's kind of j amateur to the whole investing in businesses and trucking businesses.
Yeah.
How would a person like that get started? Like what would they do to like hop in the game and get ready?
So there's two avenues. There's a smarter way to do it, and then there's the way that I did it,
Right.
right? What I would tell somebody is if you have a CDL, you automatically are going to get a lesser rate on your insurance.
Okay.
Obviously, as long as your license is clean. That's a difference of $2,000 a month on insurance that you would be paying with a CDL versus non-CDL. I have no CDL, so I built a company in trucking without me knowing how to turn on or drive a truck, right?
That's
Which is this is cool.
yeah,
It's
yeah, for
cool,
sure.
but I definitely wasted so much money learning this industry. Now, if I would have gone back in time, I probably could have gotten my CDL part time,
Okay.
right? And I would have had, and there's a lot of things you don't know. So
Mm,
watching people like myself or people that own trucking companies and just listen to them speak, right? And one of the things that I love doing is public speaking. I like to just share my knowledge because it can help a lot of people out there. And
mm,
who knows, right? We might connect with somebody. They might say, "Hey, I heard you. I love what you said, and this is what I was able to do off of just free advice.
Right.
That's pretty cool, to
Yeah,
be honest with you. That'd be
100%.
freaking awesome.
100%.
You can buy me a beer right later, but I think like listening to people that are doing it. If you have your CDL, go work for a company so you can learn what it is to be over the road, right? Because it is difficult. Like there's a lot of people that say I want to be local. The industry is not built for local right now. It's very difficult. If you have a local job, you're making good money, keep it
Right.
because you're not going to find better. Well, at least we're not finding it, right?
Right.
Um, Once you do that, go buy your first truck. Be very careful what truck you buy. I will always say buy a Freightliner. I bought a Kenworth T680, which had a Cummins engine. If you go ask a super trucker or an old school trucker, he's going to say you bought the perfect truck.
Mm.
If you ask a corporation, you should have bought a Freightliner with a DD15, 200,000 miles. That truck would
Take notes,
last,
people. Take
right?
notes. Yeah.
And so there's two different fields, but at the end of the day, what's going to last you the longest to be able to learn? Uh, be cheap on everything, fuel, what you're going to pay drivers, because sometimes when you don't know the business and you have an experienced driver, a driver will tell you what he expects to get paid,
Right.
not what the market can pay.
Right.
Right. That's why I've seen drivers say make from 40 cents and they say I make 75 cents. And I'm like, dude, I don't know how they can afford you 75 cents because the freight is not paying that.
Getting
Right.
hustled by the driver.
And this is the thing. Don't get me wrong. The drivers deserve everything in the world
No, 100%.
because they're the ones building the companies.
Right.
But at the same time, they're not seeing what it is to be a truck owner. Sometimes a truck will make profit during the week. Another truck, you'll lose profits during the week. And those two trucks, if you only own two, you're broke even. Right? Like as in you just buy yourself another week without going backwards.
Right.
So if you don't have a CDL, what I would say is save up cash, um, partner up with a lot of people to learn the first truck, partner with as many people as you can, just so you guys can, because you're going to lose money.
Yeah.
The industry is set up for you to lose right now. You're going to put money out there. You're going to learn different, like what's the strategy? Like what lanes are you trying to go after? Like right now in this market right now, East Coast is where it's paying.
Right.
Right. Before you could go, California was paying, but California right now ain't paying nothing. Loads from East Coast coming to California are paying nothing. Right. So, but if you stay only in the East Coast, Georgia, Ohio, it's like that, they're paying pretty decent on dry vans.
Mm.
So knowing that too, the other thing is drivers want home time, right? Drivers want to go home, and some drivers want to be home every day,
Yeah.
every week. I mean, a lot of our drivers want to stay out 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time because they're like, this is the only way I'm going to make enough money. But I want to go home for as long as I want to as well. If I'm going to be on the road that long. And so what we offer is a flex schedule where we allow drivers to work as much as they want and go home as long as they want. Call us when you're ready. We'll find you another truck. Right? It's like being able to create your own schedule. That's honestly what makes us different than any other trucking company. But a lot of companies are like, well, how do you do that? Well, you got to have a lot of drivers.
Yeah.
You got to have a lot of trucks because you got to have options. If not, people are going to leave you and go to the next company. So if you're going to buy a truck, I would say partner with a lot of people, buy one truck, learn the industry, or hire a business consultant. That's probably going to be, they can hire any business consultant out there that's been in the trucking industry for a little while. I would say find somebody that's doing it, not somebody that just claims they did it.
How about yourself? Are you offering any type of consulting for people in this industry?
So honestly, the funny, and I was telling you earlier, is I offer business consulting, and when I start talking to people, they say, "Hey, Javier, you want to partner with us?"
Oh yeah, they went.
So they're like, "Hey,
Get in with them.
free advice."
Are you open to that type of arrangement though?
I am. Honestly, I am. I love talking to people, right? This is the thing. I know that there has to be a charge for it. Like I was gonna do like a subscription base where a bunch of people can just jump on a call and I can just talk to groups.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, if they're wasting their time, it's not too expensive for them, but at the same time, they're getting some really, really good game.
Yeah.
And because I do the private consulting as well. The thing is that sometimes I feel bad for people. Like they pay my time, which my time is worth it, but at the same time they're not ready for that.
Right.
So I feel like subscription based would be the first avenue, and then lead into a consulting position. If they are already established and they want to scale, then at that point I would open the one-on-one session where I can go in there. I'll tell you this: if someone owns any trucking company right now, that's been around for 1 year to 2 years. I can scale their company to, I would say, a, a seven-figure business
Okay.
within months, right?
Hey, I'm gonna drop his information in the comments in the link. I mean, in the description, so y'all can get in touch with him directly and ask him any questions you want, and y'all can arrange that for sure. That's huge. That'll help a lot of people, man, for sure.
Yeah, no, and
Definitely.
it's not complicated. That's the
Yeah.
thing. It's like what I will tell anybody in trucking of how I was able to scale. And look, it took me 2.5 years to fail a lot, right? And it was during COVID when the market was booming. And that's what I tell people: when the market is booming, you can go into any business,
Hmm.
make a bunch of mistakes because you're technically are making more than what you're losing with
Right.
through all your mistakes. It's costing you, but it's not hurting you, right? Versus downturn market, one mistake can be fatal,
Right.
right? So I tell people you got to make in business nowadays. You got to make the right decision. Like I've paid business coaches. I've flown out to seminars to just hear different advice of people that are in the business world. Um, and sometimes you learn one, two things. Sometimes you learn a novel,
Right. Right.
and it's also like the people you connect with. A
Hmm.
lot of other entrepreneurs are in the same world trying to just make it,
Figure it
figure
out.
it out.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I think that's huge. So yeah, I'm definitely open to coaching people and definitely open to, and that doesn't even exist yet. Okay, I don't
Yeah,
even have
yeah,
a
we
playbook yet.
just getting this started.
It's just getting
I'm
started.
forcing your hand right now.
You're
So
forcing me, man.
yeah, go
But
ahead and do it, man,
it's
for sure.
another job.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely is. And I think like helping people bypass those trials and those failures is huge. Like you can lose all your money in the game, or you could invest in a mentor and a coach and get past those and kind of compress time in a way, speed up the process for your success when you have somebody that's been there and they've done it before. And I truly believe in reading books and finding mentors and you know what I mean, being a student of the game always before you just hop in and you know what I mean, got to bump your head. So that's huge that you do that. So before we go, I want you to tell people kind of like what's your why and just lead the people with a message like that you think they need to hear.
I'll tell you this: my why before I even say family is the selfish reason, right? I think we put in our mind that we're doing it for someone else, but before I even had kids, before I had a wife, I wanted to be a millionaire,
Right.
right? It was I. And as I get older, and obviously having kids, having a wife, you're doing it for them as well, but primarily you were doing it for yourself, right? And I think it's important that we know that and we don't shy away from it because at the end of the day, you're the one that's going days without sleeping.
Right.
You're the one that is not expressing how you feel to your loved ones because you don't want to put that burden on them.
Right.
They can see it, but you're not putting it out there. At the end of the day, no, you're doing something great because you want to do something great for yourself. I think that's the number one thing that I would say. Number two is find a group of people that you can share because one of the things, and and another time we can talk about is mental health. Sometimes being an entrepreneur, it's a lonely path.
Yes.
It's hard to find somebody that understands what you're going through. But imagine if you had people
Right.
that you can talk to that are in the same space, different industry, same space, then you're able to, talk
Yeah.
and, work through things because you can do it by yourself or you can do it with people. And so that's why I think it's important to have a good group of people that are heading in the same direction. That's what I would say. And just don't be afraid of making mistakes. That's probably like a huge one because sometimes we're too afraid to take that leap, whether it's even just to start it, whether it's just to create the LLC. Like one of the things that I see is people are like, man, it costs $500 to start my LLC. Well, you can go to Wyoming, it's $100.
Yeah. Find a way.
You can find a
Figure it
way,
out.
you can find a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that would be the things that I would say. Just go do it, just go do it.
Let's go do it. I love it, man. Well, I appreciate you, man. You know, this podcast is all about the mindset, talking to entrepreneurs that have done it before. We keep it real, keep it raw, and we always want to be able to give value from people that, that walk that path and have made made those decisions, have failed and have seen success. And I had my guy Javier on today just for that reason. So I appreciate y'all tuning in. Can you give us a tag, or how can they contact you? How can they follow you?
So it's Javi, Javi, El Raiz, Elrais, right?
Yeah, he wrote his. Yeah, he wrote the L, so I don't even know what.
Yeah.
I love it, man. Y'all go follow my boy, man. Anything else?
No, 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 no. I mean, well, actually, yes. One last thing is I always say this is don't be greedy, be ambitious as much as you want. Just don't cross the line where you get greedy because you can have a lot of nothing or you can have something of a lot.